Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today I'm talking about the debut album from Blastromen, Human Beyond. Blastromen are an electro duo from Finland, whose names I don't even know. I can't find their names actually, and I'm sure I wouldn't be able to pronounce them regardless. But one guy in my comments was really heavily recommending me to these guys. The way he was talking to me about it, it was pretty clearly that guy's personal favorite album. He was even expecting it to be my number one on my own best albums of all time list. Now, of course, I'd never even heard of these guys before those comments showed up, so there's no way it could have made an appearance on that list. But I was at least intrigued by what this album had to offer, since this guy had held them in such ridiculously high regard. Granted, this guy also said he agreed with only my inclusion of Kraftwerk on my best albums of all time list, and only 3 out of 100 is a pretty small amount, even if you didn't actually know that many others. So I guess I was a bit skeptical as well. But I figured, can't hurt to check these guys out, right? So I plopped on Human Beyond. How'd it turn out? Well, my first impression of this album is that it is kind of like if Kraftwerk and Jean-Michel Jarre got together and made a whole album together. And this is one of the best scenarios that could have come out of that collaboration. I don't know about the best case scenario, and certainly not the most likely scenario, but I was really feeling like this album was in love with those ancient electronic veterans. The science fiction themes, synth tones, vocoders, pretty similar to the kind of stuff that Kraftwerk liked using back in the Computer World days and all those. But there was also a sense of grand epicness to it as well that I tend to associate more with, like, Jean-Michel Jarre. But there was a little more of that too. Like, the lyrics touched on themes that, like, more built on old Kraftwerk themes rather than straight revisiting them. For instance, the track Human 2.0. It's basically about what the title says. Maybe wouldn't have been out of place on the Man Machine, at least if it were not for the mention of uploading consciousness, which is a Ghost in the Shell reference. And Kraftwerk, I think, are too old to make that kind of reference. Oh, by the way, Blastromen had all the lyrics to all of their songs conveniently on their website, and that was a big help, as I couldn't always understand what the vocoders were saying, even though they were talking almost constantly throughout this album, and I figured it had to be important in some way. And all the lyrics are about futuristic stuff that matches the music around it: machines obeying their master, simulating computers, going into the Battlenet, transitioning humankind, genetic engineering, and all that stuff. There's no story or anything linking things together, just cool, kick-ass futuristic themes. There's even what sounds like modulated Windows or Mac sound effects on tracks like Computer Simulator and maybe Transition Time as well? I'm not sure. I think that was really a nice touch though. That being said, I don't think I would ever consider this album for my own favorites of all time list. And not just because I've only been familiar with it for a few days as of recording this. If I'm going to be honest, there are actual problems I have with this album. I don't know about anybody else, but the biggest problem I have with this album is that it's kinda samey sounding. Like, it's a great sound that this album has going. There's lots of super epic melodies and a grand and almost orchestral feel at times, with occasional moments that almost kind of slip into hybrid territory. But I don't know. I feel like this album was crying out for some track that was like weirder and or toned down a bit more to break the mold. I mean, Kraftwerk could have lots of electro tracks in a row too, but they'd always break up things with tracks like Neon Lights, Franz Schubert, Techno Pop, or Home Computer. This album really could have used something like that. And also, I feel like if you added one more track of the same style Blastromen we're going for here, then it would have gotten too tedious and repetitive for me. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but just barely. When it was all done, I was like, that was a lot of fun, but I'm gonna need a break now. And I didn't give it another shot for a few days after that. I mean, it's not nearly to the same extent as, say, me trying to listen to a Death Grips album, but I think just a bit more variety would have done this album a lot better. But, all things considered, I gotta say, was a hell of a fun time listening to this album. I may have given the album a hard time for being a little samey, but I can't say I ever really got sick of the sound either when I was done. I just suddenly found myself in the mood for like some Boards of Canada or Bonobo to balance things out. This album sounds great, and even if all 8 of the tracks provided largely the same experience, I thoroughly enjoyed that experience. It kept my interest the whole time. It's not going to replace anything on my personal favorites of all time list, but I still thought it was great. Not a ton else to say, but yeah, while I still see myself more likely to return to Kraftwerk themselves, if you're into old school German electro, I definitely recommend this. Even though Blastromen aren't actually German, but whatever. Same difference. I'm overall feeling a solid 8 out of 10. Good stuff. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the comment thing down there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.